Hello and welcome back to eCabinets Tips and Tricks. I want to carry on with our partition calculator here in the second part of this series. What we're going to do is we're going to start by coming up with our formulas here that we need to calculate the opening for our partition. First thing we need to do is come up with the formulas to align the partition to the center of the mid stile. I'll bring up eCabinets here. What we're going to want to do is go into Partition Editor here. We're going to want to align this partition to the center of this partition to the center of this mid stile. And in order to do that, we need to know what this opening width needs to be. So there are some things that we need to know, and to do that we need to know our frame opening width under face frames here, and I have 15 inches here. So let me just minimize this real quick. We're going to need to know our scribe, our end thickness, our stile width, our frame opening. I know that's 15, and currently I am using a 0 scribe on our left end there. We're working with our left opening. My end thickness I have set at 3/4. My stile width I have set at 2. And if you notice down here, you'll see all this changing. I'll go over all this in just a second. Our mid stile width is 2, and our partition thickness is 3/4. Okay, now in order to align the partition to the center of the mid stile, we need to know what this distance is from the inside of this left end to the outside or the inside right side of this stile here. So what I have here is I have a formula. It's the inside edge of the end, and what this is it takes the stile width, which is C2, minus the scribe, minus the end thickness, which gives us 1 1/4 inches from this distance here to right here is 1 1/4 inches. Okay, the second thing we need to know is the stile edge to the partition edge. This should be mid stile edge here. Yeah, I've got distance to mid stile edge. Let me bring this down. Okay, now distance from the mid stile edge to the partition edge. Okay, so that will be the distance from here to where this partition, this side of the partition needs to be in order to center that partition up on that stile. So the formula for that is the stile width divided by 2 minus the partition thickness divided by 2, which comes up to be 5/8. So this distance from here to the edge of this partition on this stile needs to be 5/8 of an inch in order to have it centered on this 2-inch mid stile. Now we have that, and we can just simply say to get the opening width for the partition is D2, which is our frame opening, plus J6 here, plus K6. So it would be 15 plus 1 1/4 plus 5/8 comes up to be 16 7/8, which is what we need for this opening to be to center the partition on that mid stile. Now, we don't want to have another, we don't want to have this permanently here all the time with this particular formula in here. What we want to do is combine this formula, and this formula into one formula that we can use in our align center button here. So what we have is this right here would equal, this cell right here would equal D2, which is our frame opening width, plus C2 minus A2 minus B2 plus E2 divided by 2 minus F2 divided by 2, which would be this one, will equal the same thing. So if I type that formula, if I just take it actually and I copy that formula right here, copy, actually let's do this, got it highlighted. I'm going to highlight this just to show you, copy, and I'm going to hit escape and click right there, and I'm going to click paste, and if I put my equal sign right there, this should be 16 7/8, and it is. So that formula is working. Okay, I'm going to just delete that right now. The next formula we need is align partition to the left of the mid stile. So we need to know what this opening needs to be in order for this partition to be aligned to the very edge of this mid stile right here. So basically the only thing we need to know is this distance right here, frame opening and all that. So what we've got is we got this same exact formula right here, which is C2 minus A2 minus B2, and this one right here we don't even need, period. And this one right here will be D2 plus J7, which will be the frame opening width plus 1 1/4, which will give us 16 1/4 inches, which comes up to be, when we combine these two formulas, will be D2 plus C2 minus A2 minus B2. Notice the parentheses here. This is just like any other math formula. Whatever's in the parentheses is what's going to be calculated first. In this case right here, align the center, it's going to take C2 minus A2 minus B2 and store that. And then it's going to go E2 divided by 2, store that, F2 divided by 2, store that. So what it's going to do then is it's going to say D2 plus this result minus this result, and come up with that. That's what the parentheses are for. So in order to align the partition to the right of the mid stile, which in this case we're working with the left side, would be right here. Basically we need to know the distance, this exact same formula right here, C2 minus A2 minus B2, and we need to know the distance to the outside edge, which will be the mid stile width minus the partition thickness, which is 1 1/4 also in this case. And then we just take our frame opening width plus this one plus this one, and it comes up with that. And when we combine it, this is what the formula looks like. D2 opening width plus C2 stile width minus our scribe minus our end thickness plus our mid-style width minus our partition thickness, which comes up with the opening width that we need in order to put that partition to the right side of this style. So with that being said, we need to create some macros. First thing we're going to want to do though, so that we don't have to keep toggling back and forth, as you can see, this, if this was maximized, we would have to come down here every time, click on this. Just want to do an update. I don't want to do that right now. And go back and forth, back and forth. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to minimize eCabinets and get it to a size that we can work with, which is, this is a pretty good size here for me. You could play with this until you get it like you want it, and we want to minimize Excel. And as you can see, this is not the proper size that we need because we can't even see our buttons, but right now we're going to leave this just like it is because we're going to record a macro. So I'm going to maximize this, and like I said, I got eCabinets like I want it, so I'll leave that like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to record our minimize macro. So I'm going to click on developer here, and I'm going to go to record macro. Now it's going to prompt me for a name. You could leave this at macro 1 if you want, but I'm going to rename it. I'm going to rename it to min. Maybe something like Excel. One thing, you can't have spaces. You can have underscore or something like that, but you can't have spaces. So EXCEL, minimize Excel. And I want to store this macro in this workbook. Okay, you have a drop down here with the different workbooks that you might have open, but I want to store it in this workbook. This workbook is the workbook that you're creating the macro in. And you can write a description down here if you want, but I'm going to click OK. Alright, now we're recording, and it's going to record every mouse click that I make. So what I want to do first is I want to go ahead and minimize. Oop, wrong. But that could be good too, so I can show you how to edit this thing. I want to restore down here. Okay. And I want to change the size of my window to something that I can use that is small enough yet big enough to see. Small enough to use but yet big enough to see. So something maybe like that. And position it somewhere like there. Let me make it a little bit bigger there. Alright, so now I can click here and it'll be behind that, but I still can see it, so I can click on it. Okay, at this point I'm going to click on, I'm in my developer tab, I'm going to click on stop recording. And I cannot see that. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger then, so I can see it. There we go. See how it just popped up there? Right there, be good. Just stop recording. Okay, now I want to create another macro now to maximize. So I'm going to click on record macro again, and I'm going to go max. And I got it named. and I'm going to click OK. Now I'm just going to click on this button right here, maximize, and now we're back. Now I can click on stop recording. Now what we want to do is we want to put that minimize macro into our button here. So what I want to do is I want to right click, make sure you got this drop down here, and I want to click on assign macro. Now it brings up all the macros and all the open workbooks that I have. Okay, I don't want to see all those, I just want to see this workbook. And I have minimize Excel and maximize Excel. So I'm going to click on minimize Excel, and I could go ahead and click OK, but if you remember when I was recording this, I accidentally hit the minus button, so I don't want that in our macro. So I'm going to click on edit. This is where we resized it. Excel normal. We'll just go ahead and add that one. Just see what happens. Let's go to assign macro, minimize, and click OK. So now, as you see, when I hover over this one, it's just got doesn't have a finger point because there's no macro in that. Once you assign a macro, you now get a finger pointing, little pointing finger there. If I click on this, it automatically resized Excel for me. So now we can click on here, and we can still see this, so we can just simply click here and go back and forth from one to the other. So what we want to do now is we want to assign a macro to this one. We want to assign macro, and we want to maximize. I'll just highlight it and click OK. And now we got our maximize. So we can go minimize, maximize. What's going on here? Minimize, maximize. Something ain't working there, so let's see. Let's go assign macro and edit. It did not record. For some reason it did not record right there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to copy this line of code right here. Application.WindowsState equals XL normal. I don't know why it didn't record the maximize there, but let's see what happens here. Excel state equals XL normal. I'm going to highlight this, and I'm just going to start typing .window, and when I see Windows state, I'm going to double click right there, and I'm going to hit equals maximized, and see what happens. So minimize, maximize, minimize, maximize. I have no clue why it didn't record the maximize, but as you can see, there is a way that you can fix stuff like that, which I guess is a good thing that it came up like that. The only thing that I've done was I copied this and put it down in this sub here. Make sure there's no little quotation in front of it, because what that does is the code skips over that. And I just came right here and I highlighted what I copied here, and I typed in dot window state. I started typing dot window, and I found window state here. I double clicked on that, and when I hit equals, it gives me some options: maximize, minimize, and normal. And I just double clicked on maximize, and everything's working good now. So what we need to do now is basically the same thing: record some macros to align center, align left, and align right. So I'm going to use my cheater column here. I'm going to record another macro, and I'm going to call this align align center. And I'm going to make sure I'm storing it in this workbook, and I'm going to click OK. Now the first thing I'm going to do, just in case there's any more formulas in here, I'm going to click in this cell, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to clear contents. I'm going to right click, or click in this cell, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click clear contents, so that when we mash that button, if there's anything in there, it will clear it out. Now I'm going to start typing this formula right here. And you don't want to copy and paste it in there, because you'll be recording that, and after everything's said and done, this will be gone and you'll get errors. So I want to start typing this formula right here. So I'm going to start with equals, and I'm going to select D2, and I'm going to type plus and parentheses, and I'm going to select C2 minus A2 minus B2, and in parentheses, and plus, and I'm going to select, I need to type in the parentheses, and I'm going to select E2 and divide that by 2, and in parentheses minus parentheses F2 divided by 2 in parentheses, and that's all I need. So I'm going to hit enter. Now I want the decimal equivalent of this, and I have already formatted this cell to be a number, and I believe like 4 decimals. When we get done recording this, I will explain to you how I've done that, but I don't want to go doing it right now because I don't want it in our macro. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to type in a formula that says this cell that I have selected now equals this cell, and that's it. Oh, backspace and enter. Okay, so there's our decimal equivalent. Now I'm going to click on stop recording, and hopefully whenever I right click on this and I go assign macro and I bring up my align center and click OK, we now have our align center code in our button. And as you can see, when I clicked on it, it just goes real quick. And if you click on this now, you will see the formula that we just typed in here, and that one. So I mean, you could delete that and delete that, and you really haven't messed anything up because your formula is automatically calculated here. So there's that macro, and now we want to record this macro for our line left, which will be this formula right here. So I'm going to click on record macro again, and I'm going to say align left and click OK. Again, I want to clear this out, so I'm going to click on delete, and delete. And I'm going to click back here, and I'm going to start typing this formula right here, right down here. So I'm going to click in my formula bar, I'm going to click equals D2, I'm going to select D2, and plus, and parentheses, C2 minus A2 minus B2, and in parentheses, and enter. That's all we need for that one. Now we're going to say this one equals that, and enter. And there's our formulas for our macro. I'm going to click on stop recording. I'm going to go to my line left. I'm going to right click, assign macro, find my line left macro, and click OK. Now when we click on align left, it calculates. If we click on align center, it calculates the center. If we click on align left, it calculates the align left. Now we want to do the same thing for our align right. So I'm going to click on record macro again, name it, and OK. And I want to clear this out, so I'm going to click on delete and delete. And I'm going to start typing this formula right here, equals D2 plus, and parentheses, C2 minus A2 minus B2, in parentheses, plus E2, got my parentheses there, plus E2, and minus F2, and in parentheses, and enter. And don't forget to go to this cell and hit equals that, and enter. Stop recording and right click on the button, assign macro, align right, and OK. So now we have align center, align left, align right. So now if we want to center our partition up, the only thing we need to do is open up this file, and I'm going to click on minimize, and I can move this around wherever I want. And I want to, let's see, are we in our, we need to go into our partition editor here. Okay, so we want to align this opening, this partition, to the center of this style. We have our scribe, we have our end thickness, we have our style width, we have our face frame opening, and our mid style width, and our partition thickness. So I'm going to click on align center, and I'm going to highlight this opening. I'm going to come right here, and I'm going to right click, I'm going to click copy, come right over here and highlight this whole number here, including the quotes, and click paste and enter. And there's align center. Now let's do align left. Let's check that out. So I'm going to click on align left, and it gives us our measurement here. And I'm using decimals here because a lot of times if it comes up to be like 55/64 or something like that, you'll get an error if you try to type that in right there. So I'm using decimals. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it and hit enter. And as you can see, it aligned it to the left. And let's test out align right. I'm going to just click on align right, and it's giving me 17.5. copy and paste and enter, and wind it to the right. Now if you need any extra clearance in there, in other words, you don't want it perfectly flush, you want it a 1/16 back, you can just highlight the little quotes right there and click -1/16 and enter, and it moved it over 1/16. So that's about it for our little partition calculator here. I can click on maximize and it will maximize it back. On bring up eCabinets back up here. One other thing you can do is you can create a shortcut on your desktop to help you open this up, and I'll show you how to do that in yet a third video. But right now, since we have all our formulas working in here, I want to get rid of this. I don't need that anymore. I'm just going to click on clear contents, and we can get rid of all these fancy formatting here. Go home, click on our borders, no borders, and our little fill box here, and no fill. And as you can see, it's took that little border away, so I'm going to fix that real quick. The border right there. And I hope this helped you. If you have any questions, just post your questions. Any suggestions on how to improve on this, or anything you would like to see, just subscribe to my channel and post any comments you might have. Thank you for watching, and look forward to seeing you in the third video on this series. Thank you again for watching, and have a good day.